back to Market on Close. It's time for Options Corner, which means we're joined by Kevin Green, our senior markets correspondent. Kevin, what levels are you watching as we head into the close today? I'm just, taking a look at the board, and we're continuing to claw back, trying to get into positive territory.
We're trying to. I mean, the last couple of days we have seen some pretty decent squeezes going into the close here. I'm not sure if today is going to be another one of those days, but obviously we've had a lot of turbulence when it came to the market earlier on this morning, and we have been kind of consolidating for the last couple of hours here. We kind of highlighted this 6450 area as a potential area of support. We did kind of push through it to the downside, but we were able to recover, and we've been pretty much consolidating in about a 15-point range to the upside or downside. This 6480-ish area is going to be very key to try to break that trend and try to move us a little bit higher here. Now, kind of going into the close, 6480 is actually the area that I have as a resistance point, just based on the call flow that we have on for volume for the S&P 500 options expiring today. But if you're able to get above that, then once again, you could actually look at the 6500 level, which still has about $1 to $1.05 in premium if you're kind of looking at those options right now on the call side, which is a pretty decent amount of premium given the fact that we only have around 28 minutes left to go into the close. The biggest fear that you have, Marley, is obviously a breakdown, even below that 6450-ish area, having an unwinding going into the weekend, taking a little bit of risk off. We have some inflation data coming out next week, some employment data that's coming out on Tuesday, which is going to be interesting to see. So it kind of just depends on how the market wants to react. But it has been easier for this market to really squeeze going into the close, just given the fact that you're starting to see around 70% of the overall SPX volume being concentrated in same-day expiration options, which can move prices, especially as we get closer and closer to the close, and volatility risk and gamma risk increases for dealers that are taking the other side of these positions.
And what else are you keeping an eye on, Kevin?
Yeah, it's going to be a couple of things. Volume-wise today, once again, not an outsized day, even though we did see this intraday churn happening here. It's really kind of top-heavy when you're looking at the Mag 7 and the S&P 500 equal weight. I'm not sure where it's at right now, but last time that I checked, it was pretty much flat on the session here. So we are not really seeing a sell-off type of environment where everything is selling off. It seems like it's very selective. We obviously had that Broadcom announcement last night. Saw a little bit of rotation out of NVIDIA and AMD. That's kind of weighing down the S&P 500 as well. But from a volume standpoint, everything looks to be kind of intact. I also have a couple of weekly charts that I wanted to highlight, and maybe we could talk about maybe an event that's going to happen after the close here today. I'm looking at the E-mini S&P 500 weekly chart. I have a one-year weekly. Marley, if you kind of look at the last 3 weeks, we've moved only about 0.2% for the E-mini S&P 500 if you're taking the open from 3 weeks ago to where we are pretty much at right now. This just means that we are in a consolidation, and consolidations can happen in bullish trends, but what we don't want to see is next week we consolidate or pull back to the downside and close the next week actually lower, because it will actually create or start the creation of a bearish signal on that MACD, and also would confirm a bearish divergence for the E-mini S&P 500. So this chart is kind of similar to what we looked at last week when it came to NVIDIA in the monthly chart, just showing some of that consolidation. And then the other thing I want to kind of highlight here is the technology sector. XLK, we are seeing on the weekly chart a bull flag pattern taking place. We are in a bullish trend, but we do have a little bit of a flag or a consolidation. And if we actually can go to that next chart, this one is the one I'm kind of concerned about. Obviously, we are seeing it in the green here today, but this flag pattern is actually setting up for a potential bearish cross for the MACD, and this is something that actually could weigh on the S&P 500, given the fact that we will be, once the signal does hit, or if it does hit, probably will be the week of the Fed meeting, as well as some of the other inflationary data and some of the other information that we will see hit the market. So this all just means that we're consolidating. September is usually a difficult month, but you are starting to see some sectors outside of communication services rolling over here. And next week, if we're kind of in the same position when it comes to pricing, those rollover signals most likely will confirm and could also trigger maybe some downside pressure for the S&P 500.
And as far as the tech-specific sector that we were just looking at for XLK, are there levels that you're keeping a close eye on here that are of concern to you?
I would say, yes. If you look at the flag pattern itself, it's just a triangle formation, and the flag pole, if you will, is the uptrend line here. So what you do not really want to break is this 255-ish area for the XLK. That would actually break that flag down, and that's actually a bearish signal. And then once again, that MACD cross, which I have several of them in purple, it's all about momentum. So if we break below that 255-ish area, the momentum would still kind of push to the downside for the quicker moving average for that blue line, which would trigger that that bearish signal. So 255 for me is kind of that line in the sand. And unfortunately, if you're getting this rotation for semiconductors, I'm not sure how much Broadcom can really keep us up here. But if you are getting this rotation and NVIDIA continues to slide like it is, it's going to make it that much harder for the S&P 500 to really gain some traction here. Durable price action, at least to the upside, in my opinion.
Kevin, we really appreciate you taking the time to break all of that down for us. Of course, we have Oracle coming on Tuesday, so likely will impact that as well there. But that's Kevin Green. Thanks again. You'll be back with us later in the show.